technical presentation for GoConnect Panasonic. I'll be going through the presentation and discussing the new features that we've included in version 2.5 of GoConnect. And for those of you that have already attended these technical webinars, we'll also be acting as a refresher on the data that we've already covered, or the configuration options we've already covered in the past. Paul Summers, I think you've already done this one, but I'm not quite sure if Alex has done it. So I'll be going through this. As a change from the usual format or the previous format, we're going to be covering both the server and client configuration options in one webinar to try and reduce the amount of time that you spend on this training, to make sure that you don't spend too much time away from your desks doing your real work. So let me go through the presentation. So we're going to talk about the client installation. Does talk about sales, but we're not going to worry about that one too much. Sales is a webinar that discusses the actual features within the GoConnect software and how you can sell it to your customers. So it gives an idea of the functionality in there rather than the configuration options, which I'm going to be covering myself today. As this slide says, that there are various videos available from the portals should you need them to cover certain areas of this, so contact us if you need these details later on. They'll be made available to you. And now we're going to go through the installation. Now, before you install, obviously you need to check that the computers you've got meet the minimum requirements. This part of the presentation is all to do with the server. So you can see here that we don't have a particularly high spec required to run the server software. We currently split the size of the site into two different designations: a small or single site, we've only got one PBX, or a medium-sized site or a multi-site where you're using the GoSite license. Not too much difference in the specification here, just a bit more memory needed, to be honest. And you can see the definition across the top of how we designate the size of these sites. If you have a site that's bigger than this, so a much larger corporate site or one with many more, lots of PBXs involved, please contact us directly before you book it in with the customer to make sure that we can meet the customer's requirements, and we don't need to buy a high spec machine or do anything in particular for that customer. Basically, the bigger the customer, the more intricate their requirements can be, and maybe we have to do some special work for them, maybe some development work. Please note at the bottom that we can, for a single site, host the GoConnect server on a machine that also has other applications running on it, such as Microsoft Exchange or Backup Exchange or something like that. For a medium-sized site or multi-site, we would say you really do need a dedicated PC, dedicated server to host GoConnect server. And also, the server will not install on a domain controller. This is something that's out of our control. It's a problem, or not a problem, it's a feature that's been introduced by Microsoft so that we can't install SQL, which is part of our installation package, on a domain controller. So please make a note of that when we're going to customer site. We have introduced the NS1000 last year to our list, and now we've got the NS500 and 700 on our list as well. You can see the minimum MPR versions here. And a reminder that says when going to do the installation that you go to the website and download the very latest version of the software, because we do introduce new versions of GoConnect periodically. And if you have a version on your memory stick, it might actually be out of date by the time you get to a customer's site, and therefore potentially not supported. So before you begin, we always say make sure you've got the software, make sure you've know the IP address of the Panasonic phone system. It sounds a bit obvious, but sometimes that's forgotten. If you've purchased serial numbers from us and aren't going through the free trial for the customer, make sure you have the 8-character serial number available. And if upgrading from a previous version of GoConnect, so that's from 2.4 to 2.5 in this particular case, then make sure that you have the relevant licenses in place, most likely software assurance. That will cover you for the upgrade. The installation process itself is really quite easy. You just double-click on Executable, confirm that you want to install the product, and then click on Finish. It's that simple, no configuration options. And please note that whilst you're doing this, Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 is installed at the same time. That hosts things like the call history and the shared address book, and is essential to our installation. So installation notes, a few key points to go through here. Not too many of them, just a few bits to keep in mind when doing installation. The main port to use for connectivity between the GoConnect clients and the server is TCP port 21050. The Android mobile client will try and use TLS secured port 21051, and if that's not available, it will default back to 21050. This doesn't work for the iOS and Windows mobile client, they just use the standard 21050 port for connectivity. UDP port 21059 is used for the detect button on the client, where it does a quick network broadcast to find the IP address of the GoConnect server. So that's not essential, but it's a nice touch if you've got that in place. When installing the software, we do actually put the exemptions into a standard Windows firewall to allow connectivity through our software. But if you've got something a bit more intricate on the customer site, you may need to manually add these ports to allow connectivity. And when you've gone through the installation, you'll get and it's completed, the first screen you get come up with a splash screen, and we recommend that for those of you that aren't overly experienced with our software or just want a quick install, go through the installation wizard, which we're going to cover now. So the installation, which is nice and simple, there are 4 screens, 3 of which are configurable, and one of them is for editing purposes. I'm actually going to now switch to my live version, well not live, but my installed version of the GoConnect server to show you this in real life. It's slightly easy to demonstrate, but if you have a copy of the slides after this presentation, you can always go back to them for basically for reference purposes. Everything I talk about whilst using the official GoConnect software will be covered in these slides. Okay, so there's my GoConnect server. Let's pretend I've just installed it. Take a minute. Hopefully not that long. Right, there we go. Okay, so when you first install the software or when you ever run the configuration option, you get this page come up. You can see down the bottom here that the version numbers moved from beneath language just to the bottom left now. So using version 2.5.20 and build 16057. So we're going to go through the installation wizard now to show you how simple and easy it is. The first screen is for licensing the product. Nothing too complicated here. These are the contact details for your customer, not your own details. We make sure we put the correct information on here, the name and address details, in case you have to search a database should any questions arise for the support team about the particular customer's serial number and licenses. What I'll get now is I've put some fake information here, so that's a bit wrong. It should always be correct. If I just fire up my licensing, get this, should copy that into the clipboard beforehand. Copy that, minimize, go here. This is a license I've already got in place. So you paste in your license. You'll notice that when it's blank, you'll get the register for free trial option appears just here on the bottom right. If you put a serial number in there, that becomes grayed out, so you can't use it. The free trial is rather nice. It gives you 30 days of trial. A standard set of, I think it's, I'm not actually quite sure how many licenses, but more than enough licenses for a customer to use the client or the client software in its full functionality and get to love it and then buy it from you. There's no modules missing from this, still the functionality is there, so it's quite a good way to sell the products. But in this case I'm going to use a proper real license, so I'm going to register it online, click on OK, and in a second, assuming all is good, right, there we go, got my licenses. So we can see I've got an Office license, an Office Plus license, which is new to 2.5. We'll talk about that a bit later, but that's mainly covered in the sales and pre-sales slides. But that does offer some more functionality that you've got within our software. And then we've got some serial licenses as well, and maybe some additional PBX licenses down here, but we're not going to really cover that too much. If the computer doesn't have access to the internet, then click on Manual Registration, click on OK, make a note of the site ID and serial number, and then find a computer that has got access to the internet and go to this web page here, goconnectserial.com/register, which will allow you to then put in all the details of the license, click on register, and it will give you a series of unlock codes, which are a bit unwieldy, 16 characters each, which you can now copy and paste into this unlock code bit here at the bottom. So that's what that's there for. So that's, you put the unlock code in there and it would all work. We don't do that today because the license is working effectively. So click on Next. We need to give the site a name. We're going to just call this demonstration because I haven't got much imagination. And even though it's not actually essential in here, I can put the correct area code for where I am situated. For those of you that have used older versions of GoConnect, there used to be an option down here, tick box, beneath the area code, to use Windows dialing TAPI rules. That's been removed because it caused more problems for the standard site than it's actually worth. That was a special option designed for rare sites that have some different dining rules based on the country that they're in. So if we move that there, and we can just activate that if we need to for sites, but I don't think that affects you lot. So click on Next. Now we have to set up the configuration options to connect to the phone system. So we've got two options, the main options here, KX, we just need the IP address and fast dial devices and trunk access. And we have the NS1, which is pretty much the same here. So I'll just talk through this. We've got connector MUX at the top. For those of you that know one second. For those of you who know the Panasonic phone system, you can have it only allows one CSTA connection. If you need more than one application to connect to the Panasonic phone system, then there is some software you put in place called the multiplexer, which actually has the connection to the phone system, and then applications such as GoConnect will connect to the multiplexer instead. If you put a tick in that box there for MUX, then the IP address in the next box down here is going to be the IP address of the machine that hosts the multiplexer software rather than the IP address of the phone system. If you've left the MUX tick box empty, as in this case now, then you put the IP address into the PBX. Nothing could be simpler, really. Fast dial devices. These are virtual extensions configured on the PBX to enable quicker calling from the mobile client. There are virtual extensions which actually forward the calls on to the external call when using dial-through. They have to be configured on the PBX for this purpose and specified on the server. There is a special document, or there is a document on the Go mobile software and how you can actually use that if you need further information on that. The auto create tick box is to allow us to download extensions from the phone system, and the force now option when you've got a connection will allow it to update the list of extensions and their associated names should anything change on the PBX. Please note the changes you can make in the GoConnect software to extension names and numbers does not push back to the PBX. It will be kept within the GoConnect arena. That's all. Trunk access code in the UK, we use a 9 for trunk access, which that's how you get make an external call from a handset. By putting a 9 into the GoConnect software, that then takes care of that, so you can dial from web pages and Outlook and whatnot without having to put the 9 in yourself. So because I haven't actually got a Panasonic phone system available to test with at the moment, I'm going to switch into demonstration mode, which has similar options, but basically allows you to demonstrate the GoConnect software without actually connecting to a phone system. I'm going to use the auto create option here, so you're going to download some fake extensions as it were. And also just for demonstration purposes of going through this, I'm going to tick the box for call generator, which allows it gives the appearance that some calls are going through the GoConnect server software from a phone system that exists on the site. So that's quite good to show you things later on and how this system actually works. So if I click on Save, you can see here the log box towards the bottom says connected and then monitoring 201, 202, 203. If you see any errors in there, then you know you've got a problem. You might have to go back and check. You've got the CTI activation code on the NS1000 and things like that, depending on the errors that you see. If you're not sure how to deal with those and you're doing installation at the time, then obviously contact us directly and we'll help you with that. If you click on Next now, you'll see you've got 4 extensions. Now these are the ones that get downloaded to the demonstration PBX. You can, if you want to, edit the details here, make some changes. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this right now because actually we'll be talking about that in more detail later on in the presentation. But that's a nice list of extensions. If you don't get a list there, then something's not quite right. You might want to click on back to go and check the connection details to the PBX. Or if the state in the right-hand column doesn't say on hook, off hook, and ringing, then if they're offline, you also know something's not quite right, maybe needs adjusting to make sure things are working. In all cases, if you do have problems, then assuming it's a fresh install to the site, then we can always assist to help anyway. So click on Close, and that is essentially the that's the wizard followed, and you have the server software configured in its minimum state and all connected up and ready to go, so you can walk away and start doing the client side of things. Now there's also a classic menu, which I'm going to go through now, which gives you more options. You can always, once the GoConnect software has been installed, click on GoConnect server configuration and go back and assign or adjust any settings that you've already got in place to meet customers' requirements. So as I said earlier on, anything that I cover in this is covered in the presentation, so you can get a copy of this after the show and refer back to them for references later on. So if I go to the classic menu here, you'll see we get much more options, but essentially they are the same. We've covered some of these options like telephone system extension briefly in the wizard, but we'll address those a bit later on. But basically I'm going to start at the top under activity and work my way through all the options. And for you out there that are new to 2.5, whichever one is, I will talk about the new functions as they are applicable. So calls, that's always been there. That's a list of current calls that are going through the phone system. In this case, fake calls, but they are calls for our purposes nonetheless. You can see there's a devices column that says who's actually on the call. You can see the caller number, so that was 102 Wendy, and the called column shows what number was dialed. And then the state and the direction and the current duration. So that's a real-time window there to see what's going through the phone system. Another call there, to Wendy this time, and you can actually search using 201. If we did 202, sorry, it wouldn't work. 202. That's a real-time list of calls that go through the phone system. Normally just used for validation processes, but might be used from myself or the technical support team if a site is not behaving as expected. New to 2.5, we have availability. Now I don't actually have that many clients connected up and running with this because this is a fresh install on my laptop. But you can see here we have two users. We've got Ben and the system. Feel free to ignore the system user because that's just something that's inbuilt in the software. It doesn't actually get used by yourself as a reseller or your customer. But you can see here at the moment that Ben is a user on here, and currently the call forwarding is turned off. I don't have any telephone numbers assigned to me. The availability is available and the next availability is available. That's based upon things like my Outlook integration for the calendar, or maybe the Microsoft Exchange integration that will change my availability as and when I have calendar appointments set up for myself, and you can tell the customers or tell your other users what your state is. That's quite useful. That's new to 2.5, sorry, and is documented. So it's quite a nice screen there, so you can get a general feel of the users on your site at any time. Sessions. That's not new, that's always been there, and that just shows you the number of clients that are connected up, whether they're mobile, PC, the attendant, and maybe even a Mac client. I haven't got your clients connected at the moment, but you'll always see UC telephony, which is a connection to the phone system, and GoConnect configuration in there, which is essentially the connection to the underlying SQL database, and basically that's how it holds the configuration and actually runs. So you'll always see those two in there. So that's activity. Under enterprise, we've got licensing here, which you've already covered in the wizard. You can come back to the screen if you want to, just to check how many licenses are being used, how many licenses are in place, or indeed if you've purchased additional licenses through Panasonic, then you come to this screen and click on refresh license if you wanted to update the licenses that are available on this particular server. So if I was to purchase 5 additional Office licenses, I click on refresh license, and you'd see the number increase from 10 to 15. If you're moving server, if a customer has bought a new PC to host GoConnect server, you'll need to release a license first, contact us to make that license available, because licenses can only be used on one computer at any one time. So to do that, you come to the screen, you click on release license. It says you sorry, what you do this can't be reversed. Click on OK, and you'll be given a release code. Release code then needs to be sent to us, whether it's by telephone or email, given to us along with the original serial number. We will take those details, go into the licensing server at this end, and release a license, and you can use it on the customer's new PC. Obviously, there's more. That's not always applicable if a server dies and you don't have a chance to recover the serial number. If that's the case, then there's more validation checks to go through, but it's not the end of the world. So that's what the licensing screen is used for once the site is set up. Client security, that's the same as it was on 2.4. By default, we have it so that people connecting up through or clients connecting up through the local area network can automatically create a user account in GoConnect, which is standard. Picks the NT authentication name from a PC and creates a corresponding user account on GoConnect. Or you can use the do not log in or anonymous option on the client to connect up. Anyone connecting outside of the LAN won't have those options available by default, and the system administrator or yourself as a reseller will have to create users on the GoConnect server and give usernames and passwords out to the staff as applicable, so they can use the GoConnect client. Obviously, you can change systems here. You can turn everything off so that no one connects without you giving them a username and password, or you can turn them all on so that anyone can connect up as they like to, or you can have a combination of any of the above. It's entirely up to you and the system administrator for what basically fits that particular site's security options and fits in with their protocols that they already have in place. Users here, that's nothing new. I'll go through the options we've got on here. If we click on Edit, you get the same options whether you edit or create an account. The short name is the login name that you would use on the GoConnect client. The name beneath that is the display name. So at the moment I'm Ben, but I could actually go with Ben Voller, that's my surname. You can enter an email address here. That will help you link into the Microsoft Exchange calendar if you have that license available. Also means you can send emails from the presence window and things like that, which is quite useful. Password is always one dot in here. It doesn't mean it's just one character. If a account's been created automatically from a user, a client logging in with the user entity authentication, then that password's actually blank. We don't drill into anyone's Active Directory or PC and figure out what password they're using to log into it. We just create a blank password associated with the user account, but you can change that if you want to. Now, policy here, that refers to security policies. Each user can only ever have one security policy in place which controls the functionality available from the client, but you can create as many security policies as you want on a site to manage their requirements. You can have one per user, one per department, or one for the whole office. It's entirely up to you and the customer. So we'll talk about those more details later on because they're actually next on the list. You have department here. By default, that's a blank drop-down, but you can start typing in here, give departments to your customer's site. So previously, I had used support, but I could put administration. Oh, let's get that right. Administration, right like that. Okay, click on Save. If I go to Ben here, we can see that my drop-down now includes administration as well as support, which is quite nice. So that's how you can group your users or indeed extensions later on for the presence window. You have Active Directory. By default, you've got no integration, but if you buy the right licenses, then you can synchronize GoConnect with your Active Directory and either push or pull the users and extensions from Active Directory as per your requirements. So if we go to fetch data, what that means is that the Active Directory becomes your main database to control usernames and passwords. Well, not actually passwords, but usernames, telephone numbers, display names, things like that. It means if you change any details on Active Directory, then the GoConnect will pull that information down. So if you change someone's extension in Active Directory, then the extension will change in GoConnect. If you change it to send data to Active Directory, then the GoConnect server becomes the primary database to control usernames and extensions and display names. And if you change things in GoConnect, it pushes it back to the Active Directory. It's entirely up to you how you use that. There are separate documents to explain that in more detail, so I won't cover it too much more, but that's there. It's been there since 2.4 and it's still there in 2.5. And these options down here haven't really changed so much either. Hide status means that this user won't be visible in the presence window. Calendar integration means that if you have the Microsoft Exchange calendar integration configured, then this user will have that available to them as well, and it will synchronize their appointments on the Exchange directory, Microsoft Exchange, with their the availability on the client. That's not News 2.4, that's been there. Not News 2.5, that's been there in 2.4. You can disable an account, that's self-explanatory, or you can keep call details private, which means although you can see this user in the presence window, and you can see when they are on a call, so their icon goes red, you won't actually be able to see who they're on telephone call to. So that's quite good for managing directors, principals, chief executives, that kind of thing, so they can use the software, but people can't see who they're talking to on the phone system. Those are those options there. We also have here on the telephony tab, which was introduced in 2.4, the ability to have multiple telephone numbers or multiple extensions associated with a user. If you have Active Directory turned on, then these details in here will synchronize with the Active Directory account for that particular user. Like I said, so you can change one in one place and changes in the other. You have a current tel, that's like a preferred device. And at the moment, these are all blank because I haven't got anything configured, but you can configure them yourself as you want to. So if I do 201 here now, then the Ben's account, my account, will always use extension 201 until I tell it otherwise, and actually means that the client doesn't have the ability to configure that themselves. I'll leave those blank as they are. There is a document on Active Directory and how they synchronize, and essentially tells you which fields in Active Directory link into which fields in the GoConnect user account. So let's save that there. That's that all done. That's users. Security policies. As I explained briefly, these do control the functionality that's available in GoConnect. We have default account, which is applied to everyone when you first set up the system, and the administrator's account. When they are first introduced, when the software is first installed, these two policies are identical, which means that they have all the options turned on. If I edit this now, you can see that there are various options in here. Ability to turn on or off call control for everyone, the ability to deflect or pick up calls, you can turn that on and off. You may not want the customers to use messaging, the end user to use messaging in GoConnect. That's the kind of thing you might want to turn off, on and off. For security purposes, you may not want people to view other people's calls. So that's the alternative, the flip side of the coin for hide my status on the client, sorry, the user or extension, and to take the tick out of the box to view others' calls means that anyone associated with the default security policy can't see who the call details for other people on the system. So it's the other way around. So rather than keeping my details private, this would mean that I can't see anyone else's details. It's a little bit, I've only used it a few times, maybe a little bit murky, but that's the kind of thing we're looking at here. We've got the ability to change your availability or see the availability and view other people's appointments in the calendar, or sorry, not the calendar, in the presence window. Depending upon the security options that you might have on site, you can turn this on or off as applicable. There should be available a full list of how those affect people if you need them later on. So let's leave those blank now, but that's what they do. As I said, each user can only have one policy available to them. But you can have as many policies in place at the moment, whether it's one policy to fit all, one policy per department, or maybe an individual has their own policy. Maybe the chief executive has their own policy and everyone else uses the default. It's entirely up to you and your customer how that works. So underneath an enterprise, you have an equipment tab. Now, it may not be obvious because it doesn't change color, but if I hover over the word demo and click on that, you can see the site details. So that's got the name, the language, the country, and the area code. So if the officer was say to move from Peterborough to somewhere else, you can change the area code in here as you require, and then save it. If you make any changes to this screen, or indeed the next screen, which I'm going to show you, the telephone system screen, you have to, in our terminology, restart the connection to the PBX. That's done using this stop-start, or this stop button at the top right. If I clicked on stop, that would then become a start button, and you press start and it connects up to the phone system again. Nothing too complicated there, but basically from our point of view, that's what we call a restart to the phone system for that change to take effect. And also any changes any changes that you make on this screen also need that restart there. So if I change to KX and actually put details in and change them here, I'd have to save it down here and then stop and start the connection to the phone system for that change to take effect. Nothing too complicated there. That was all available in 2.4. Now this is going to scream at me when I do this. No, it didn't. Good. If I go to extensions, then we can see the ones that's downloaded from the phone system. They're all nice, and they're all currently, well, you can see that Patrick is off hook. That's a good idea. It shows that the phone system is actually working. If I click on edit, you'll see the details here and how you can actually change things. As I said, if you make changes here, it doesn't push it back out to the Panasonic phone system. It's just kept within the GoConnect arena. So I could change Patrick Mace to P, or just P Mace 412, and that change wouldn't go out to the phone system. Departments, again, you've got a list here. You can change it as you like. DDI number, that means that when the customer when the end user is not available via their desk phone extension, then actually from the presence window you can call their DDI instead, which is quite a good idea. So you can still get hold of them if they're outside of the office. That's quite a nice thing to do. We have various options down here beneath. Most of those are mainly for support options, and we put you to make the changes ourselves. The ones that might affect you most of all are going to be the two ones at the bottom, for hide status and keep call details private. They work exactly the same way as they do on the user account. So hide status means that you can't see this extension on the presence window, and keep call details private means that if you look to them on the presence window, you can see that extension 203 was on a call, but you wouldn't be able to see who they're on the call to. So that's the kind of thing that you can change there. Nothing's changed there for 2.4. We don't actually have, let me just go back and switch this. It's going to scream, but let me just show you 1.1.1.1. Save that. So other information that we can download from the phone system is trunk information. Not really very useful. It's not. You wouldn't use the trunks on the GoConnect server, but it's what we use to be able to hold the CLI as calls are transferred around the phone system. So it's important that we do actually monitor the extensions, but as a rule, you wouldn't ever use that screen. It might be used by myself or the support team to get things to work properly if you see some strange behavior on the phone system. Ring groups, that's quite nice. What that means is if you want to, you can set up a ring group within the Panasonic phone system and within GoConnect, and you can give it a nice name. So if we've got a ring group here, 100, it's called administration. That means if anyone calls 100 or they dial a telephone number, a CLI that gets into call group 100 on the Panasonic phone system, then when the preview window pops up on that particular user's GoConnect, you will see that in the bottom right-hand part of the screen, as well as saying someone called this telephone number, it also says it called administration. So it means that you can tell which department or group of people the end person is calling in is trying to get hold of. So that's quite nice. It's called alpha tagging, at least in my world it is. So that's what we use that for. And you can see voice recording integration is configurable on here as well. That's a whole new arena. It's not new, it's a whole different arena separate from what we're going to be talking about today. But essentially, with the GoConnect software, we can link into the retail voice recording phone system, the sensor recorder by retail, and allow some PCI call muting to go ahead. I won't go into any more detail than that today. You'll be on a case-by-case, site-by-site basis as we actively get involved in the configuration of GoConnect to work with retail. So if anyone asks you what that's there for, we don't offer voice recording with GoConnect, but we can link in to the retail voice recorder to allow you to mute calls as they're going through the phone system. If you're gathering things like credit card information, that kind of stuff. So that's what that screen is there for. Let's minimize equipment and go to services. Active Directory we covered in 2.4, and we covered this earlier on as well when looking at the user account. It's possible to set up Active Directory integration so that either we're pulling or pushing usernames, display names, and telephone number details between GoConnect and Active Directory. For those of you who see this in the past, you'll see we now we have Activate Active Directory integration. Of course, now under Mode, we used to only work with Active Directory, but now we work with Microsoft's Azure software, which is, I believe, a hosted version of Active Directory, which is quite nice. So we've introduced that in 2.5. And very simply, you just need to put in the domain you're working with, administrator level username and password, and you will get a connection. If you want to filter down, depending on what licenses you bought, the number of users that you can download, I forgot to say that actually, if you set up Active Directory integration, as well as synchronizing the data between users on GoConnect and users in Active Directory, we actually draw down a list of users from Active Directory to be used within the GoConnect. Now, you may have less licenses on GoConnect for Active Directory integration than you have user accounts in Active Directory. If that's the case, you can filter down or restrict the users that are drawn down either by container or by group within Active Directory to limit the lists of people that we draw down from Active Directory. They might be referred to as organizational units. If you have any questions about that, it's just a separated list within GoConnect configuration, let us know and we'll describe it in more detail later on. just let you know that is actually now there available in 2.5. In 2.4, we just downloaded all of the users from Active Directory, but in 2.5 you can filter it by container or group. It is documented with a few examples on how to work that. Okay, calendar integration. Okay, do you want to save changes? Okay, yeah. Nothing's changed on here. Basically, if you don't want to use the Outlook integration, which requires the GoConnect client running at all time to know what their current user's availability is, you can synchronize the appointments between Microsoft Exchange calendar and GoConnect to change the availability of particular users when we know that they have an appointment in their Outlook calendar, which is quite nice. Basically, you just tell it where the Exchange server is, put in their username and password, and it will connect up. You do need to run a command using the Exchange command shell to set up a user to allow this to work. That is documented if you need that. I can't remember what the exact phrase is now. It's called application replication or something. But yes, you can actually set that up, but it is documented on what command you have to send. Without that command, it won't work. So it's essential that you run that before trying to link into Microsoft Exchange, but it is documented on the presentation that you can get after this this webinar. Federation, very similar to GoSite. GoSite meaning if you have a GoSite license, you can link up your GoConnect server to more than one PBX. If you have two sites with maybe a bit of an unreliable or unstable Wi-Fi or broadband connection between the two, and you want the two sites to stay autonomous but to have a link that has all the normal functionality of a GoSite, then you set a federation. Basically that means that you have a GoConnect server on both sites connecting up to their own PBX, so they can just look completely normal from a standard setup point of view. Each set of users has their own, is working on their own site. Then you can set up a link between the two GoConnect servers to allow you to see the extensions on the other site, send messages, make calls between the sites and that kind of thing. So the normal GoSite functionality. You simply go to the first site, turn on the tick box to allow federation, give it a name. Let's go laptop. Click on add, put in the IP address of the other site, and it could be the external IP address of the site or the internal IP address if you have a nice LAN setup. We connect up using TCP ports 21050 to make sure that's available between the two sites. You click on save. Let's do 1.1.1 to make it different. Click on save, and you can see here it's stuck in the creating phase. If I went to the other machine, 1.1.1.2, you'd see a similar option come up here, but pending awaiting validation, I think it says. And you can now, you go to edit on the other site, and you'd have a validation option at the top, and you just basically accept it. And then you'd see under equipment an additional site appear with the word remote in brackets at the end of it. Does that then allow inter-site connectivity between the two sites? So that's what federation is all about. It is documented, so we can help you with that, give you documents if you need that in the future. Let's turn that off. Call matching, that ties into the voice recording option we talked about with retail. We need to link the channels from retail with the trunks that we know the phone system is using. Again, I'm not going to cover that in more detail than that. It's something that we do on your behalf, but that's what that call matching is all about. Linking retail voice recorder into the Panasonic phone system. Archiving, nothing new here. We keep call history details, start time, end time, duration, devices, extensions, that kind of thing on the SQL server. And by default, the external call details are stayed for 60 days. The internal calls stay for 7, and messages, so using the messaging within GoConnect to stay for 60 days. If you want to change it, the number of days, put a new detail in and click on save, and that will now start reducing the number of days that we save for the external call history. We don't often get to use that, but it is there as an option. That's what archiving is all about. Remote call control, that's not particularly new. That's been around for quite a while. It used to be called OCS, or Microsoft Link Gateway. So basically that allows us to create a gateway that sits between a customer's Microsoft Link 2010 or 2013 server and the Panasonic phone system, and allows the Link client to make calls through the Panasonic PBX. It's quite simple. we normally get involved setting these sites up for you. You need to buy the right licenses and book in a session, but that's what that's there for. We don't go into too much detail on this webinar, but if anyone wants to know what that's about, or if we can link in or can work with Microsoft Lync, then the answer is yes. And if we're talking about remote call control or RCC, this is where it's all configured. It's configured on our server. We can create a gateway to allow Lync to dial out from the Panasonic phone system and also allow it to respond to inbound calls through the phone system as well. That's quite simple, well, relatively simple, and doesn't get covered in any more detail on this webinar. Rules, I wouldn't worry too much about this one. This is more of a technical support area for myself or my team, or maybe the development team. Basically, if numbers are presenting themselves incorrectly, telephone numbers, CLIs, call IDs, that kind of thing are showing themselves incorrectly in the GoConnect software, then we would probably use rules. We would define the rule ourselves with some support from the development team using what's called regular expressions to literally, as a find in your place option, to strip out incorrect digits or maybe insert missing digits so that the calls, the CLIs and the DDIs are shown correctly within the GoConnect software. We wouldn't use that without the technical support team involved. Therefore, I wouldn't worry too much about that yourselves, because you wouldn't have to make those rules up. We would get actively involved and tell you exactly what to do. In fact, if it's got to that point, we would actually organise a session and set it up with you and test it with you, unless remote access wasn't available. So that's what rules are used for. Okay, so that's all the services. And under deployment on the server, at least, there's nothing new here. Computers is a list of computers that have the GoConnect client installed on them that we're aware of. When you first register the client, the computer name appears on here. This allows you to push out what we call package files or PKG files, which are small updates of our server, maybe some changed DLLs that can affect fix bugs or affect functionality on a GoConnect client. Handsets, that's a list of all the mobile handsets that are using the mobile license. When a handset first registers on the GoConnect server, you have to come here, find its unique identity or telephone number and assign it to a user, which then has all the relevant extensions set up for it. So let me just confirm. If you go back to users here and edit Ben, in order for the mobile client to work, each you need to have at the very least a desk phone and a mobile extension configured on here, so 201 and 301 to allow it to work. It could be the mobile extension is actually the same as a desk phone. It depends on how you set up your site. There was a separate document on this on how to set up the phone system to allow the GoConnect mobile client to work, so you can get hold of that if you need to. But in order to be able to administer the mobile device, you need to then set up an account like this, and then when you go to mobile handsets on the server, you'd see a record in here, you edit it, and then you select the right user to use that device. Again, that's covered in other documentation. Software packages, as I briefly explained, sometimes we do have to roll out very small changes to certain sites. Maybe one or two DLLs have changed to fix a bug or increase functionality, that kind of thing. Now, in those cases, you might not be relevant. You might not want to do a full install of a new version of the GoConnect client. You may want to just replace one or two files on each user PC. If that's the situation, we can guide you through how to push basically it's a compressed file from the server to any existing clients using GoConnect to make that change. Not covered in any more detail today, but if you do happen to have a site that's relevant, we will talk you through what to do on that particular case. And then lastly, we have user settings, which is quite nice. Nothing in at the moment because I don't have the user configured, but what user settings allows you to do is once users are set up, you can make small changes to their details, such as turn on or off application dialing or web page dialing, turn on events, that kind of thing. Or if you want to, you could take, if you had a site set up with some complicated events or integrations, that kind of thing, you can actually take a user profile from here, create a template of the details that you want to pushed out to everyone on the site, and then apply that template to all the users. Again, this is documented. We do have a nice document I wrote last year on this one. So it allows you to manage a site working cleverly from the server rather than hard by running around all the computers and configuring them in the same way. This covers users that exist and installed versions of the GoConnect client that are already on PCs. There is a document we've got for using Microsoft group policies to push out a fresh install or a new install of the GoConnect client. It's not covered today, but for those of you who want to talk about that later on, let us know, and we'll discuss the options that are available to you. But it does require that on site there's some system administrator, whether they are local or a third-party business that supports their site, configures the Microsoft group policies according to their own requirements. We tell them what we need to do from our point of view, from a GoConnect client point of view. We don't actually get involved ourselves in configuring someone's group policies. So I feel like I've rushed that a little bit because we've got to cover quite a bit on the clients as well. But that is essentially the server. I'm assuming that's probably just a recap of what you already knew, and from an end user's point of view, not much different for 2.5 on the server. The changes that we're seeing in 2.5 are mostly available through the client. So before I move on to the client, just give you guys 2 minutes to digest. If anyone's got any questions, then feel free to raise a question using the questions option in GoToWebinar, or indeed use the chat option to ask any questions. I'm just going to take a glass of water, quick swig of water. My throat's a bit dry, and then we'll go back onto we'll start with the client side of things. So I can mute myself for a minute to have a glass of water. Okay, so I haven't seen any questions or chat messages come through, so I'm assuming that all makes sense to anyone. Obviously, you can ask us questions after this via email or what have you to fill in any gaps that you feel that you may have missed out, that kind of thing. So let me now move on to the client. Let me just make sure that the server is running properly. Let me just go here, pick demo. This is just going to make sure that it works nicely from a client point of view. Stop that. Right, there we go, connected again. Okay, fine. So having covered the server, we're now going to cover all of the GoConnect clients. Most of the information you're going to be gathering is based on the standard PC client, so that's where we're going to start off. Let me just fire up this. Go to slideshow and from the beginning. Okay. So as I said earlier on, most of this is already covered in 2.4, so this is mostly a recap, but we'll be covering the changes, the new features that we've added in 2.5 as well. So we're going to cover the PC client, which has most of the configuration options in it that you're going to be made aware of. Then the GoConnect attendant, which has a few changes, few differences between itself and the PC client, then the Mac client and the mobile client. They're all going to be covered in one presentation, which you can get at the end of this webinar. So we've already talked about the other presentations that are available, the server presentation and the sales presentation, which covers functionality, so we can skip that. And there are videos available should you need to from the portal. So here we go, Windows specifications for the PC. Nothing new and amazing here. We dropped support of Windows XP quite a while ago. It says Windows 8 in desktop mode on there for the supported operating systems. It actually includes 8.1, which is nicer and better, so go with that if you can, but it is all fully supported. It's not a problem on that. We support 64-bit and 32-bit applications or operating systems as well, so that's not a problem. It shouldn't cause you any problems at all. Similar to the server software, when doing installation, please make sure by going to the GoConnectCRM.com website that you have the latest version of the software available and the right licenses in place. We would always recommend that you keep the versions of the GoConnect client synchronized with the version of the GoConnect server. You can have slight discrepancies between the build number and the on this client and the server, but if you're using a 2.4 server, it needs to be a 2.4 client, and when you upgrade the server to 2.5, then you should also use a 2.5 client. That's quite important, otherwise you might see some strange behavior. It says here you need the IP address of the GoConnect server. That's useful if the detect button doesn't work due to network restrictions, but I'm assuming everything's happening on the same day, therefore that should be readily available at the time. Okay, so much the same as the server software installation, is just double-click, click on yes or click on install to say you want to do it, and then click on finish. There's no additional configuration options you need when going through the client. That's all done afterwards on the telephony page to get minimum connectivity set up. But that's basically, that's why we just showed this screen. Not much going on, nothing too complicated there, nothing too scary. Once you've installed the software, you have the ability to then go in and configure it, which controls how the GoConnect software works. So you right-click on the system tray icon. At the moment, that icon shows it's being green, which actually implies it's connected up to the phone system. When you first install GoConnect client, it will be a grey squared off icon in the system tray. Now the actual shape of the icon has changed slightly, so if you can see, just see down here to the bottom right, it used to be a proper circle. Now it looks more like a little rounded off square, but that's a little change, but nothing too complicated there. It's just a different shape between an extension and a user. Okay, so we're going to talk about the options that are available and how they affect the functionality of the GoConnect client. You'll see on the client there's much more visual changes to the configuration options than you had on the server, so we'll be talking about them in more detail in a second. And actually we're going to be doing that using the client as well, because it's easier to show you that in real life than talking through a bit dry on a presentation. So let me go to my GoConnect client now. There we go, see the nice flash screen pop up, so it's running. And you can see just down here, if I hover over it, it says GoConnect initializing and telephone device and no valid device found. If I right click on the icon here, and just to point out for those of you that hadn't seen it previously, you have a help option there now. That's an online help to get you details about GoConnect client, and you have a preferred device which are currently undefined. Now that's something that's actually covered by the pre-sales and sales presentations, so I'm not going to discuss them now, but I'll show you in the configuration how they are configured properly, if that makes sense without repeating myself. So if I go to the configuration options, we get the telephony screen come up. And we can see here that the reason why it's erroring is I've used server 127.0.0.1, which is the IP address for the local host, therefore this PC, but the extension is 3850, which is actually my internal extension over here in the office, and that's not configured on my GoConnect server. So if I change it to 201 and click on Save, you'll see that the icon goes green. Not quite sure why that error message is there. If you see those kind of error messages, I would also say the best thing to do is just to close down the GoConnect client and fire it up again. Might stand a little bit, it crowd, but that's normally the way to get things fixed, isn't it? Turn them off and turn it on again. It does also say there that it doesn't like that, so let me just check extension 201. Check the configuration options. Not quite sure what's erroring, but it's not going to stop us doing the presentation today. So let's continue. So by putting in an IP address here, or the name of the GoConnect server, you'll get the client going green and then red when on a call. and you just tell it which is the correct extension to use. Nothing could be simpler. That's all standard in 2.4 and 2.3 and even older versions. If you want to have a kind of a setup so that if a user on a computer has a different telephone number each time when they fire it up, potentially do a question mark in there and save it. Oh, I think I know what I've done wrong. I know what I've done wrong. Let me just change this. Let's go to this error message. No, it's not done that. Anyway, if you have a question mark against the extension on the GoConnect client, then every time you start up the client, you'll get this dialog come up, this window pop up saying what's the extension for the day. That says 105, which is an old configuration, doesn't exist. So I'm going to go 201, click on OK. It keeps on saying that error message, this is embarrassing, but it's not going to stop us from working, and it's gone nice and green, so I won't worry about that too much. It's just a development laptop that can play up. So, continuing, under login, again, we have the normal options here, nothing's changed in 2.5. You have the ability to either use Windows Login, which will create an account on the server with your username. So on the server behind you can see a short name of Ben, which is how I log onto this laptop. Therefore, my user account is Ben. If I want to create a new account on the server and use it here, specified username password. If I did that now, it's not going to work because there isn't a John T on the server. So we're going to change that. If you did do not log in, I don't like that option very much. It removes some of the functionality from GoConnect, therefore I wouldn't recommend it. But that basically means you can use your extension, but you as a user don't really exist on the phone system on GoConnect, and therefore you lose a fair amount of functionality. You can't use the new combined view on the presence window. You can't send messages to an individual, that kind of thing. So it's not really recommended. So let's go with Windows Login. In fact, just to tidy things up a little bit. Just tidy that up. And then down towards the bottom here, we have the select description that matches your method of use. By default, we go with this top option, which says that everyone on this computer uses the same telephone number, or same telephone. That implies that it's a desktop PC, and that it's always got extension 201. And it also means that any configuration for the CRM integration you've got will be shared across all users. So if I logged in and John logged in, we'd all have extension 201 in there, and maybe the Outlook integration options configured. If a PC is used by lots of people and they want to be able to configure everything for an individual purpose, they've got their own extension number that they use, maybe the hot desk, and they have their own CRM integration options that they use. Different people have different integrations. Maybe I use Outlook and John uses Dynamics CRM. Then you'd set this button option here that says everyone on this computer uses a different telephone number. Also, this is the option for terminal services or Citrix environments. People think that that's all a bit black magic and scary and difficult to configure. It's not actually the case in GoConnect. Select this option at the bottom for terminal services and Citrix, and it will literally take control of everything else and enable GoConnect to work on the Citrix terminal service environment. We can discuss that outside of this webinar if you need us to. If you have more technical questions, or if you have what you believe is a difficult or technically complicated, complex site you need to get GoConnect client to run on. So that's all there. That was standard in 2.4 and 2.3, so nothing to worry about there. Now we're going to start moving on to some of the changes that we've got. So what you wouldn't see on 2.4 is this mobility option here. If I select that, effectively you have the option to set up your own, this is probably why it's airing actually, additional extensions. So we're saying I'm using extension 201 normally, but let's say I also have another extension which is 202. Oh, do you see that morning message pop up there? It said that an Office Plus license was required. Now, Office Plus is a new license introduced in 2.5, which you need to have in place for the show license to allow this kind of functionality to work. Now, what happens in GoConnect is if it needs to use a license based upon your configuration, it will automatically change it. Can you see here my license type on interface has changed to Office Plus. Now I'm sure I've got Office Plus licenses on my server, so therefore it's not going to be a problem. But for you, those of you that haven't got those licenses, it will cause an error. Okay, so we continue this configuration. My second extension that I say, let me say I hot desk around a little bit, work from home 2 days a week or something, or maybe work in a different office. You've got a second extension, 202, and then I've got a mobile extension if I use mobile. Now this is a lie, it's not 203, but I might as well put one in here. Click on save. The invalid devices message disappeared. That explains where that came from, so that was a bit of impromptu tech support there. And if I now right-click on my client and go to preferred device, I can pick one of my 3 devices. That's quite nice. So I can say, actually, today I'm using 202, not 201. So that's new to 2.5. And that's what that's there for. That also changes how I'm presented on the presence window as well. That will change my main device on the presence window in the combined view. So that's what the mobility options are all about. So that means that if I was making a call now, because my preferred device is 202, it would actually make it from extension 202 rather than 201. So I can pick and choose which extension I use depending upon where I'm sat at the time and what desk I'm using. So interface, nothing new here, except the introduction of an Office Plus license type, which is used for mobility and a few extra bits and pieces. It's also used to allow a dial from GoConnect client option to appear in the link client. That's new to 2.5, but it's difficult to demonstrate because I don't actually have to add link client running properly on this PC. For hold on a second, let's go over those. Okay, that's better. Right, leave it as Office Plus. You've got application load. By default, you have this option up here that says start automatically with Windows. That means that every time you log into the PC, the GoConnect client will fire up. Now, if you've got limited license on a customer site, or you're only running this on maybe a test machine, don't want to run all the time, then just take that tick out there, and it won't fire up unless you wanted to. You can get that from the start menu on Windows. Languages, by default, it's auto-detect, but we do support many languages. These will be validated by professionals so that the translation should work absolutely fine. This will be on a client-by-client basis, so you can set the configuration options that way. Main window, I would always leave it as default skin rather than no skin. No skin just takes away the nice GoConnect Panasonic look and feel to things and makes it just look a little bit clunky, to be honest. Therefore, it's not quite so nice. I wouldn't really recommend doing that. Preview window, we've all seen GoConnect, and when a call comes through, the icon goes red and a little preview window pops up over the system tray in a nice unobtrusive manner. Or if you've been sent a message by someone using GoConnect, you'll also see a pop-up come up over the system tray. Now, some users, I'm not quite sure whether they want to do this, want them turned off, so you can do that from the interface page. And as I've shown you before on 2.4, you have hotkeys which are available. So you've got the function keys here, control function as well. It allows you to basically do call control functions from the client using the keyboard rather than the mouse. So you could set maybe F6 to make a call, F7 and then F8 to answer and then hang up. To make the call, you just have to highlight the number in Notepad or Word or wherever it was, press F6 and you see it dial out straight away. And I wouldn't worry too much about the contact cache issues at the bottom there, just legacy things to roll the version of the system to clear down some local data. Wouldn't worry about that too much at all. Dialing, nothing much has really changed here in 2.4. You still have the ability to do clipboard dialing where you just copy a number to the clipboard and you get a preview window that pops up, or the notification balloon, to be more accurate, pops up over the system tray saying click here to dial this number. Web page dialing, that enables you at the moment to have hyperlinks in Internet Explorer. If you want to do hyperlinks on Chrome or Firefox or other browsers, then there's a separate document on how to use the various extensions that we facilitate to get that to work. It's, like I said, separate Excel document, which doesn't too complicated, just each browser is slightly different and therefore it needs to be configured in a slightly different way. Application dialing, that enables you to dial from applications such as Outlook, Goldmine, basically a lot of applications, some that we know work and some that we've never seen before. I forgot to say that for dialing options, if it's an application that we fully support, like Outlook, Goldmine, Sage CRM, Dynamics CRM or Dynamics Nav. There is the guide readily available for that, which will tell you exactly what to do to get configuration or get the dialing to work properly. Now, there's nothing too complicated about that, and once you've done it a few times on an application, you should become confident enough to then look at another application and figure out what the best way to dial is for that particular case, that particular user. That's application dialing. You can also use this to create an icon on Internet Explorer next to a text box, but that is actually covered by the separate Internet dialing technical guide. TAPI dialing, that's used for software such as Goldmine, which allows you, has definitely option in it to allow you to dial out. And you have to follow that application's own rules for dialing. Where it says requires restart, that's not on the GoConnect client, that's actually the PC that you've just installed a TAPI driver on. And then under phone and modems, you should see a UC TSP TAPI driver appear under the advanced options we can utilize in software such as Goldmine. And then focus dialing is the last option, which is a bit basically promiscuous and basically will constantly, in an unobtrusive way, be monitoring what's going on your computer, and will basically allow you to dial out properly from, say, anywhere it sees digits appearing, more than 9 digits, for example, maybe the subject header of an email or any application. It's quite nice, but it's a bit practice to figure out how it works. Not covered in any more detail on this particular webinar. We have options down here to add. If I just remove this option we've got here, and then I'll show you how to do application dialing for Outlook, just as an example here. So if I go to Outlook, right, we've got my contacts, let's search for me. Right, good, I am there. And let's say I want to dial my home number. So at the moment nothing's happening there. If I go to GoConnect, click on Add. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about these options down here. You'll figure out in time how to use them properly, and like I said, they are all documented, how to use them in different cases, and as you use it more, you get more familiar with it. So for application dialing, to create your own dial icon in software like Outlook and ACT, if you come down to the penultimate or 5th option for any other type of standard Windows application, and it's actually quite a commonly used one, click on Next. We've got this target here. If I hold my mouse down on that and move it around, we can see the data in the application in text box changed. If I hover it over the 0800 number there, you can see it contains 0800, the application is Outlook, and the text box is RichEdit RichEdit20 WPT. Release that. I'm actually going to say no in this case for the defaults. Click on Next, close, save that now. And what we should see now is if I hover over the telephone number in my Outlook, I've now got some dial icons up here. If I click that now, it would dial that number. You can see that that's dialing. It's gone red. It's actually my preview window is turned off on this, so I need to configure that back on to hang up the call. So let me turn that on, interface. Right, there we go. So now I can hang that call up. Or not, as the case may be. That's probably a bug on this computer and the demonstration PBX that I'm using, so just ignore that now. I can clear that down later on. So let's go continue with this talk. We haven't got time to fix that right now, although it's a bit embarrassing. That will disappear after a while. Okay, so that's dialing. Social networking, again, isn't anything new. Let me close that down in the background. Isn't anything new. Click on Add, and we can integrate with Facebook, MySpace, or LinkedIn. Basically allows you to search those accounts you have access to when a call comes in, but it requires your own credentials to log into Facebook and LinkedIn, and also the ability to see that person's records. It's not covered in any great detail, but that's still there from 2.3 and older. Now, what we've got now is a whole new area for events now that's new, so you weren't seeing this before. So we need to describe these a bit more now. So under activities, we can use this. As far as at the top, we have online meeting detection. Now that's what that does is that looks at your computer, and if you're using things like GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting like I am right now, or Skype or Link, or any of those commonly used, or many of those commonly used online meeting of that meeting software, actually the GoConnect client will detect that, and whilst it's running, it actually changes your availability in the GoConnect to busy or in a meeting, so that you can actually let people know without telling them in advance that it's all working fine and you're actually busy and therefore do not disturb. You have inactivity detection now, which means that if you walk away from your computer for more than, and the default's 10 minutes or 5 to 30 minutes, then you can actually set your status to be away from desk, which is quite nice. People know that you're not there and therefore can't answer the telephone or answer messages directly. You have the ability to change your status when your computer is locked. So if you've got one of those offices that says if you're away from your desk, then lock your PC. The default is to say no change, but you can say change it to working away, you're on a break, unavailable, away from the desk, as per your requirements, so people again know that you're not reachable. Under calendar integration, we have the ability to use calendar information to change availability. That means that basically if you have the GoConnect server linked into Microsoft Exchange Calendar, then once that's all configured on the server and it's you're linked into your particular user account in Exchange, by ticking this option here on the client, it means that when the Exchange calendar knows that you're busy or in a meeting due to your appointments, it will change your availability, should I say, for your user account on GoConnect, which is quite nice. And what you've got here is the option to publish the meeting subject as the absence text. Now that used to be the default on 2.4, that if you had a meeting and you had availability linked in through Outlook or Exchange Calendar, that it would use the subject of the appointment as the absence text in the presence window. Now some people didn't like that, they said actually that was my reference only, I didn't want other people to know that I was at the dentist or in a meeting with certain people or something like that. So what you can actually do is you can toggle this option here to turn that on or off depending upon your own requirements. So you can tell people that you're in a meeting, but keep the actual details of subject private if you want to. And then lastly on this option we have the Microsoft Office Presence. Now that links into things like Lync and Outlook, so that if you say you're busy, then you're looking in Outlook or your Lync client, if you've got that running on your PC as well, it would also say that you're busy, that kind of thing. So that's all new to 2.5. Takes a bit of practice, but it gives you much more flexibility on how the availability events work within GoConnect, rather than simply I'm busy or I'm not busy. It gives you much more control over that, which is really quite nice. Also, just to cover this now, before I forget, and it's covered in the sales, if I right-click on here and go to availability, you used to only have 3 options available in a meeting or away from desk. Now you've got other options in there now, which you've introduced, which is quite nice, to again give you more flexibility on how you can set your availability on the GoConnect client. So that's activities. If I go to availability, this is where you find the option to tell your Lync client that you're busy when you're on a call. That doesn't actually require the RCC gateway, the full integration on the server-to-server configuration. This literally just allows you to say when GoConnect knows you're on a call, then tell Lync you're on a call as well, if you have cross client kind of site set up. We have a busy light indicator in here, so we have, I can't remember who actually publishes or who maintains it, manufactures it, but we do have a busy lamp indicator which you can plug in to a USB device to your PC, which has different lights on top of it, different colors to indicate your state, whether you're busy on a call, that kind of thing. So you can see here that it says it's not connected because I haven't got mine plugged in, but if you were to purchase that, you could see the state according to busy light. We have the, this is actually a bit of a misnomer here, where it says update handset availability. It's actually what this means is that because we don't actually update the handset to say that you're busy or D&D or something, but what it actually does do is it synchronizes your user account with all the extensions that you have set up on the server or under mobility. So that me as a user, Ben, I have 3 extensions, 201, 202 and 203. But at the moment I would need to set all my accounts up, all my availability against each extension separate. If I was to tick this option here, it would actually, I'm going to change the wording so that actually what it does is it explains that you're going to be synchronizing your availability across all your devices. So we're going to, the next version of 2.5 will have that slightly better worded, so it makes more sense for you. And now we're going to look at some really good stuff here down the bottom. We can see here now that we can make the GoConnect client work in different ways depending upon which status you're actually in. So we can say, right, if we're going to the in a meeting option and click on enter, that means when we go to change to the in the meeting availability state, click on the normal browse button, click on add, and we can tell GoConnect to do certain things like forward all calls to another number, maybe for your desk phone to another extension, that kind of thing. Or you could set it up to, you could set it to change your per device, so that everything goes through to your mobile, which is set to voicemail, that kind of thing. So I haven't really got time to go through all these options, and I haven't got time to go, well, you can actually look at them now. So you've got the options that you have: set call forwarding, set do not disturb, change your preferred device, send a feature code to your handset, change your absence text to what you want, or indeed use the messaging options within GoConnect to send a message out to various people, which is quite nice. So you set that up so when we go into a meeting, that's what happens, and then we can say, okay, fine, I want to come out of that particular status. So on exit, so basically when we move from being in a meeting to available, then we can do something different. So if you had call forwarding enabled, you'd come here and you'd remove the destination for your desk phone, so it would take the call forwarding off. Like I said, I don't have much time to go through all the options on here, but if you go away and get version 2.5, you should all have NFR licenses. You can get the 2.5 client working on your PC, and it should all be good. That should now work. Just test it. It's good fun. It's NIS 2.5, and it gives you even more flexibility on changing the availability and how GoConnect works when you're busy. Okay, so call events, that's not new. That's all been in there. 2.5. You can do things like show the phone window when the phone is ringing. You can show presence window or show contact, or the default's always no action. You have the ability down here to play sound files when the calls are happening, or when you've got call ringing or call waiting. So you can differentiate if you're away from your desk. You can tell that you're no longer available, or you can tell that you're away from your desk and you can hear your phone ringing by playing your own sound file on the computer. And we can say to mute speakers when you want to call. That's quite nice. So we can do that. And then for those who want it, you have more complicated events here. They were available in 2.4 as well. So you can select your event, so on call connected, so answered, direction, and we can fire off various applications or web pages, URLs, depending upon your customer's requirement. Now there is a guide for this. We at the GoConnect support team, we do not write applications or create URLs and web pages for a customer to do what they want us to do, but we can, in the guide it says you have a URL that you can use to fire off a particular action, or an application you want to fire off when you are on a telephone. We can fire them off, but someone else has to have created them for the customer, that application or URL, and we can pass parameters such as the current telephone number that you want to call to, that kind of thing. But like I said, there's all in a separate document, and we can discuss that in more detail if the customer has any requirements for that. So that is call events. Recording integration, similar to when we looked at voice recording and retail on the server. I'm not going to cover that in any detail today. Essentially, we can set it up so that when GoConnect knows you're at a certain web page or application is running, then it will mute the voice recorder, the retail voice recorder for your telephone call, so that you don't record things like credit card details, because that's for PCI compliance, you're not allowed to record details on your voice recording software. I'm not going to go into any more detail on that, but that's what that's there for. It doesn't mean that we do voice recording in GoConnect. It links into the retail voice recorder and allows you to mute a call depending upon what's going on your computer. That's what that's there for. Integration, nothing new there for 2.5. Maybe we might introduce later on some other applications that are standard, but literally this is where you link in GoConnect client to talk to, well not talk to, but to search the end user's database that they use, whether it's Outlook, Dynamics CRM, Dynamics Nav, Sage CRM, that kind of thing. We've got 22 or so applications, maybe 23 now, that are fully supported within the GoConnect client. Every one of them has got their own technical guide or add-in guide that now tells you exactly what to do, step-by-step guide on how to configure GoConnect, how to configure the application if necessary, maybe turn on functionality or make some changes to it to allow us to link in. It's all in there. nothing too complicated. If I go down to Microsoft, oh, my route's actually, because this is a trial PC, my route's actually a bespoke app, not bespoke, an advanced application. So we get involved in remote. Let me just change this down to maybe a standard one that you've all seen, Microsoft Outlook. Assuming my computer's playing well today. No, I could not connect to Outlook. So something's gone wrong with my PC now, but literally, this is a development laptop. This isn't the problem with the application. This is something that happens on my laptop quite a bit. We have different versions of GoConnect installed in it, and I can inadvertently break it whilst testing other things. So literally, you'd pick your application of choice here, and there'll be various options appear in Outlook. You pick the profile to use, the information store, and the contacts folder. If I was to click on New and show you something like Dynamics CRM, which is another common one, there we go, Dynamics CRM. You'll see, yeah, it's a full CRM license. A lot more options appear now specific to Dynamics CRM. Now, we don't know the answers to all these questions. You need to have someone available on the customer site or via email, telephone to help fill in these gaps. But you can see here that there are 5 different ways to connect up to a Dynamics CRM site. And every time they bring out a new version of CRM, there's more ways to connect up to it. So most recently it was with 365 account. Before that, they had the Windows Live ID, then you had federated sites, that kind of thing. So we don't know the answers to this. We don't know what the customer's URL for Dynamics CRM is. Much as we'd like to be wizards and find that information ourselves, we would say when doing an integration for a customer, if you've not done that particular application before, get hold of the guide, read through it, check you understand what's going on, and make sure there's someone on site or someone available at the time that can answer all those technical questions about usernames, passwords, paths to app databases, that kind of thing, because it's all essential, and we don't know the answers ourselves here at the GoConnect support team. So that's what the integration is there for. And then we also have down here, last bits, we have a versions tab, which tells you what version you're running, 2.5.20, and then a build number 16057. We have got an option in here that shouldn't be there at the moment, the download option. Basically, when new versions of the GoConnect 2.5 come out, maybe in a few months' time if we bring out an interim build, then you'll be able to download the new version of the client from this screen here under versions. It will say there's a new version available. Click on download, and it will download it from the GoConnect CRM website, and then allow you to install it. And then we have a log that you wouldn't normally use. But this basically tells you what's going on, tells me as a support analyst what's going on a particular computer. If you're having problems connecting up to a phone system, a GoConnect server, an application, we can see the logs in here. Now, you wouldn't need to worry about this too much yourself. Just something that we would use, maybe ask you to send us from clipboard a copy of the log. But on a day-to-day basis, I really wouldn't worry about that yourselves. So that is the client side of things. I'm just going to have another mouthful of water. So that's a standard PC client. We've still got the attendant and the mobile client and Mac client to cover. So if you've got any questions now whilst I'm having a quick swig of water, let me know. I'm just going to mute myself so you won't hear me, and then we'll move on to the next part of the guide. I'll just skip through this now. 1 second.
Good morning, all. My name is Javier. Ben is changing his headset right now, so he will take a couple of minutes, okay? So don't worry. Just a second, please.
Javier, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Fantastic. Okay, so sorry about that. My headset was beeping in my ears saying it's going to die. The battery's run flat. So I've had to grab Marco's headset. Okay, so Javier, throw your hands up in the air if things go a bit wrong. But I'm going to continue now talking about the attendant. Okay, get the thumbs up from Javier, so we're all good. Okay, so the attendant, to be honest, from a configuration point of view, pretty much the same as the standard client. So if I just whip through here, we're going to talk about the same things. Right, here we go. Installation is the same. You get download the latest version from the GoConnect CRM website. Double click on the executable, confirm you want to install it, and click on Finish. Nothing too complicated there. You can see here that if you right click on the same icon in the system tray, there's no new options here for 2.5. We're just going to talk about the configuration options. You can see here in the screenshot on the right hand side that actually the configuration options for the attendant are pretty much identical to the configuration options on the standard PC client. So you don't need to learn anything massively new or completely different. The only real changes, so on the telephony screen, which I'm about to show you now, you can see big circle at the bottom here about active and application only, and there's no options. Sorry, backtrack a little bit. What you're missing from this page is the ability to switch the attendant into terminal services Citrix mode. That's because we don't support the attendant in a TS or Citrix environment. We can't manage that. We can't support it. The PC overheads are too much and the complexity is involved in too much, so we don't support it. You'd have to have it on a standard PC, a normal PC in the customer's office. Hopefully they won't cause you too much problems. So if we go now to the big red circle, at the top we have an extensions text box. You can put a comma-separated list of extensions in there that basically allow you to monitor any calls that are coming in for other extensions on your site or in the office. This includes the ICD call groups. This basically means that if you've got somebody using the attendant that wants to know that the Chief Executive's phone is also ringing, then you can have Chief Executive's extension number in here, and the window with the GoConnect attendant will respond accordingly when a call comes in to the Chief Executive, that kind of thing. We also have an active drop-down, which has the ability to control the numeric keypad. So that's either going to be the keypad to the left or the right of a standard an extended keyboard for a PC, or if maybe you've bought a USB keyboard or USB keypad for your laptop. Basically, what we do is we say under this active control, if we have this set to always, then every time you use the keypad on your keyboard, that makes sense, then you'll start sending those digits, those numbers, to the attendant. If you have it set to application only, then the keypad will only have effect to start sending numbers to attendant if you actually have the attendant running in the foreground, so showing the normal screen with a list of extensions and that kind of thing on it. That's nothing new. That was there in 2.4 when we introduced the attendant. Nothing new at all. I'll show you the next slide. We have a license type of attendant which you can't change. You've only got an attendant license. Effectively, that's the same as the full CRM license. So you get the ability to integrate all the applications that you would normally have. Nothing restricted on there, and that is essentially the the only two differences between the attendant and the standard PC. As you can see here on this slide, lots of tick boxes that says this works fine. We've covered it all on the PC. Therefore, you can refer back to the PC configuration options to find out about social networking or activities, availability, that kind of thing. So that means we can now skip on, we've done the attendant, we can now go to the Mac client. I think that's probably the quickest I've ever done the attendant presentation, so that's quite nice. Just looking at the time now, yeah, we're fine. So the Mac client, again, nothing new, well, nothing great and new to talk about here. This is going to be just a refresher for those of you that have already done the 2.4 presentations, or for those of you that are new to GoConnect, just go through this in a bit more detail. Currently supported versions of the Mac OS are OS 10 or X, 10.7 to 10.9. We're constantly looking to increase the supported versions. We just haven't got the latest ones working yet. For those of you that are really Mac savvy, you don't need to buy a special Mac for it to work. Please note that a site does need to have at least one PC available to install the GoConnect server on, but then once you have that running, then the Mac clients can all connect to it using the standard TCP port 21050. Installation is actually really quite easy, and I think you'll find that actually your Mac user is much more familiar with the concept of installing an application on the Mac than a PC is with installing a program on Windows. So they'll probably end up grabbing the mouse from you and doing it themselves if you gave them the download file, the DMG file that you've downloaded from the website. So basically you download it, you double click on it to insert or mount the image on the Mac. You can then go to Finder, which is equivalent of Windows Explorer, and either double click on it to run it, and then either drag it on the desktop over to the applications folder, or add it to the list of available applications down in the task tray towards the bottom of the Mac operating system. Now that's not anything, that's something a bit peculiar to the Windows operating system, but all Mac users will be completely familiar with that and won't have any problems at all with the concept of doing that on your behalf. Oh, I must apologise, that always comes up halfway through presentations, get rid of that. Okay, so that's the installation, really simple. You'll see here that there are the configuration is virtually the same as the PC as well. There are just less options available. So we just scroll through the options that are available. You have the languages available. That's actually a nice long drop down, the same as we get on the PC. Although you have a detected option that actually tells you what language it has already detected, which is quite nice. Or you can manually select the language that you want. You have a telephony option where you put the IP address of the GoConnect server, you put your extension, and then you can select the normal no logon, auto login, or the specified login details. Now those are exactly the same as the PC. Therefore, I don't need to worry about them. There's nothing's changed there. We've got here, you can see the interface and the events options available. There are no dialing events option, no dialing options available on the Mac client. This is because they are turned on automatically, and they are quite simply web-based dialing and clipboard dialing. I don't think that there isn't any application dialing available with the Mac client at the moment. Due to the limited development, we can put the limitations on the Mac client. They're not in there as an option. Integration, also big restrictions on this. On the PC there are 22 applications we can integrate with a standard, and possibly hundreds now that we can do as advanced installations. On the Mac client you'll see there's only two options: the OS X or OS 10 contacts, which are inbuilt into the Mac operating system, or Salesforce. That's all you can do, really, to be honest, not much more, but they are fully integrated. Now that's the Mac client, to be honest, that's that done. So I'm about to move on to the PC, not the PC, sorry, the mobile client, but I do have to bear my nose, so 1 second. Sorry about that. Never do a presentation or webinar when you've got a cold. Tends to get in the way. Okay, so here we have the last of the clients we're going to discuss today, which is the mobile client, and you will see that there's no changes that I'm aware of, but we'll go through for 2.5 to go through the mobile client. So we support Android version 2.3 to 4.4, the iPhone iOS 6 to 7.1, and now we support the Windows Phone. We use Windows Phone 8 and 8.1. These details might change as we increase our functionality, so always look at the website for latest information. Okay, so connectivity requirements, as you can see from this checklist here, most of the time we can get away with simply a 3G connection to allow you to do searching the address book, looking at call history, using the chat function, that kind of thing. But if you want to do something like using the soft phone mode, then you would probably recommend using Wi-Fi to get that to work properly, because soft phone over a 3G connection is it's not going to be very good at all. Any degradation on performance of the 3G connection is going to have a detrimental effect on the ability to use the soft phone on your mobile handset. And for the geolocation option, you have to have internet connectivity for the GoConnect server and the GPS enabled on the mobile handset. Okay. Obviously, with your mobile, I don't think it happens as much these days. So you may get charged for additional data services if you're going to be using 3G on your mobile. Most people's contracts have unlimited downloads these days, but there are people out there like myself that do have a limit on how much data I can download each month. So beware of that one for your customers' requirements. You don't want them coming to us saying that they've suddenly got a huge mobile bill because they're using the mobile client. Okay, that's connectivity. Obviously, there are some dependencies here. The availability depends upon the configuration of the phone system. If you're unable to reroute incoming calls, then you're not able to do that with the mobile phone system either. If you want to enable these abilities on the phone system, then you might require additional licenses on the PBX. But that's something to discuss outside of this presentation. Okay, so we're going to talk about installing the client on the Android handset. You go to the Play Store and search for GoConnect Mobile. You click on the install button, and it will then automatically install. That's standard on Android these days. Nothing too complicated there. And then we have to talk about provisioning the mobile device. Now, pre-provisioning implies that on the server, where I showed you mobile devices, mobile extensions, you had a record in there for your own particular mobile device, your handset, and it's set up for your user of choice, which is also set up for the extensions that you want to use. When you then register your client and put in the IP address of the server, it will automatically link into GoConnect and start working. Again, this is all documented. We can probably talk about this outside of this arena if you really do need us to assist you on that. So an example would be we need to make sure the default port 21051 is enabled or falling back to 21050 if that's not available. You can use port forwarding on your router or firewall if you want to use a different port, but the GoConnect server will only allow connection from port 21051 to 21050 by default. So if you look at this example here at the bottom, the system administrator wants external GoConnect mobile configurations come in via port 12345. So on the mobile configuration for the server IP address, we put the external IP address of the server colon 12345, then we allow the router or the firewall or the switch to route port 12345 to the internal IP address of the GoConnect server on ports 21051 and 21050. So that's a network configuration option, but we can support that within the GoConnect mobile. Once you click on next, if you've got pre-provisioned setup, it will then say, connected, and it's all good. If not, you'll get a refresh option. And you've got to finish here, that's good. If you haven't been going down the pre-provisioned option, then you have to then go to the server and find your mobile device. And in order to know that you've not pre-provisioned, you'll get this option here. You get a refresh option. which basically says that your system administrator or yourself as a reseller needs to go to the mobile extensions list on the GoConnect server, search for this unique device identity, which you can see. I hope you can see my mouse on the screenshot. It says in the middle your device identity is 35299 blah 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 blah. Okay, so you can find that reference on the GoConnect server, edit it, and pick the user that you want to use that device, so John or Ben or whatever, for the right user, and then click on refresh on the GoConnect mobile. If you want to set up your user and your extension details yourself, you can go to the manual setup on your mobile device. Manual setup means that you tell it which user to use, which desk phone extension, which mobile extension you're using, and also which password to use, which needs to be configured on the GoConnect server. So nothing complicated there, assuming that you are technically savvy, obviously. If you're my father, then you might struggle with that a little bit. But from your bog standard user, nothing complicated. And once you've done it more than once or twice, it is very, very easy to do. So that's manual setup. We have two options for the mode here, desk phone mode and soft phone mode. Desk phone mode means that you are able to just monitor and control your desk handset, so in my case extension 201. So when you're making call from the mobile device, you won't be making call from your mobile, you'll just be telling your desk phone to initiate the call, which is quite useful. You can use it like as an additional keypad there to allow that connectivity, or you can go to soft phone mode, which allows you to use a SIP phone or soft phone that's been installed on the mobile client. Please be aware that GoConnect does not have a soft phone available. So that would have to be installed by the phone maintainer. So it has to be enabled on the PBX, and then you need to find a soft phone that works on that mobile. We don't work with that ourselves. You don't support that at the GoConnect support team. That would be completely under your control as the phone maintainer. If you then switch the soft phone mode on the GoConnect mobile, then basically rather than trying to use a GSM dialer, it would then pick the default soft phone or SIP phone on the mobile client and make the call. That's as simple as that. That's what those two options are there for. But please be aware that we don't provide a soft phone of our own at the moment. SIP phone at the moment. Connectivity, you want to be able to say how long you can stay connected for. I did talk about how some networks will charge you per data download, so you may want to say disconnect after 10 minutes, or indeed you might turn it off after 10 minutes just to conserve battery power on your mobile. They still haven't perfected the art of getting a decent battery on a mobile to last more than a couple of days at a time at the moment. And like all applications, the GoConnect mobile application will use battery power. Okay. Dial through. Assuming you have a DISA or auto-attendant number configured on the phone system, you can configure the GoConnect mobile to dial through that number. So it will dial the number, the auto-attendant number, pilot number from the GoConnect mobile. The pause character by default is a comma. That's just something that we put in place. And then trunk access by default in the UK it would be a 9, and that's what you pull down from the server on the GoConnect mobile. That allows you to do trunk-to-trunk calls. So if you dial in through the pilot number and want to dial out to a different CLI, they would have to use that 9 to force the call through on a second trunk. And then we have the option to specify how long an external number is, so it can identify whether you're trying to call to an internal extension or actually do a trunk-to-trunk call. Okay, so nothing complicated there. We won't go into any much more detail about that today, but we can discuss those outside of this webinar if you need to in the future. We have an option on dial through to say you can always use dial through when dialing these certain numbers. So maybe you've got a customer in Japan, an international number that you want to dial on a regular basis, and you don't want to dial that from your mobile and therefore incur huge mobile phone costs. You can set up the GoConnect mobile client to, if you're dialing this particular number, Japan, Holland, America, wherever, to always use dial through, and therefore it would then go through the customer's PBX, or we could say never use this dial through. So it's a blacklist. Maybe that could be for one-to-one, so that you don't dial use the DC to dial through to your voicemail on your mobile, or maybe friends and family. Obviously, you don't want the company, the customer site says you can't make personal calls through your Panasonic phone system. So you put your friends and family's numbers in your mobile in GoConnect in there as well, saying don't use dial through for those. I hope that makes sense. Widgets, you can have the widget to enable or toggle the dial through option. And we have an availability widget as well that allows you to block incoming calls, reroute them, change your availability status, or edit your absence text. So that's the two widgets you can do. Once you've installed the GoConnect mobile application on your phone, then you can install the widget in a normal way. On the case of an Android phone, you press and hold on the desktop on your phone, go to widgets and browse for the ones you wanted to add. So they are all there. The iOS, you can do this all through the app using the username and password and mobile extension. So you're literally doing a manual configuration rather than pre-configured on the server, and it only supports, as we said at the very beginning, on the server configuration port 21050. There is no secured TLS configuration for the iPhone. Windows Phone, similar setting up for the Android, and again we only support port 21050, and that is it. To be honest, all support questions should go through. We go to the website and go to goconnectcrm.com. Emails go to support@goconnectcrm.com, so we can help you with that. The warranty in the UK is 3 months. I'm not quite sure what countries that we could. Customers outside of the UK, we would deal with the warranty on a case-by-case basis, but you can always purchase software assurance for your customer sites, so you can get full support from my team and also be able to upgrade the version of software from, in this case, 2.4 to 2.5. So that's it. I've gone through both presentations now. Actually, to be honest, made quite good time. No questions have come through so far. I'll hang on the line for a little bit longer in case anyone has any questions about what we've discussed. If you have any really complicated questions, then let us know, and we'll probably take that outside of this webinar and actually have a full-on telephone conversation to discuss a particular site or your own site and how 2.5 will affect it, or indeed anything to do with GoConnect, really, to be honest. If you've got any questions, let us know. As resellers, we're always here to help you. Okay, going to be so for a while. If you've got any questions, use the chat message, and we'll hopefully wrap up shortly.